Next, I'd like to take a look at the Align panel. This is a way of arranging objects in relation to each other and in relation to the page. You can see here on the Align panel, which you can get to by going to Window, Object and Layout, Align, that there are options for aligning the objects, which means picking a selected point on the object, the top, the bottom, the left, the right, or the center points, and aligning the object to those points, or distributing the objects, which means for any given point, creating an equidistant amount of space between those points. So for example, if I chose to distribute my objects along the top, which I'll show you in just a minute, it would place an equal distance between the top of each object to each other. First, I'll quickly show you the Align commands. So right now, you can see that my objects are kind of a little bit out of order on the page. If I select them all, and I choose to align to their left side, you can see that the leftmost point of each object is now in alignment. I'm hitting Control-Z to back up and put my objects in their previous locations. I can also align on the center, the right, and I can align them vertically as well. If instead I were to choose to distribute my objects, you can see that if I distribute them based on the topmost point, it shifts those two slightly down, meaning that there's an equal amount of space between the top of the square, the top of the circle, the top of the rectangle, and the top of the star. I'm going to go ahead and bring that star to the front. Whoops. Except I have to deselect all of my objects first if I just want to bring that star. So I'm going to go up to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, just because I think it will be a little easier to see all the tops of the objects. So again, if I select them all, and I choose to distribute to the tops of the objects will be distributed evenly along the top. If I choose to distribute them based on the horizontal center, you can see that now the centers are evenly distributed. I'm going to back up for a second. Move my objects a little farther apart. The other command that's available is to distribute the spacing. In this case, instead of distributing the points on the object, InDesign looks at the spaces between the objects. So I can either distribute, again, vertically or horizontally. And now it's looking at the amount of space between the objects, which should be distributed evenly. The other thing that this panel allows you to do is decide what it is that you'd like to align or distribute based on. What I mean by that is if I click on this button where it says to align to, it will either average the selection and align the selected objects to each other, or it will allow me to select what's called a key object. So if I click on Align to Key Object, you can see that there's a blue highlight around my magenta square. That blue highlight indicates that this is now my key object, and that any of the commands I select will align my selected objects to this key object. So for example, if I choose to center them, they'll all be centered along the center line of that key square. Other options for aligning include aligning to the margin of the document. So if I select Align to Margin and align the left side, you can see that it automatically aligns all of my objects to the margin of the document. I can also align to the edge of the page or to the edge of my spread if I'm working in a multi-page document.